Welcome to the Freedom Real Estate Podcast with your boy Andrew Freed and my partner and friend Ryan Emrich. How are you doing today, my friend?
Doing excellent. Great to be here. Thanks for having me. Great to see you again.
Hands
taken. Hands on the mic. Yeah,
hands on the mic. Hands on the mic. All right. So I want to thank Ryan for coming here and showing off those legs, right? Like, come on, you know.
Some of us go for the Lulu 5-inch inseams, others 13-inch cargo shorts, to each their own.
You know, a little podcast.
No judgments made. No judgments made.
We want to clarify those are not underwear.
These are not underwear. These are Lululemon 5-inch inseam. I should remind the viewers at home, it's 95 degrees today in Boston, Worcester area. So very on point with the temperature, the climate.
Can you blame the guy? He's like a Greek god. Just look at him. Just look at him.
Man.
All right. Enough about that. All right, let's get into Ryan. All about Ryan and how he got started in real estate. So, Ryan, why are you sitting in a seat right now?
So I'm sitting in Worcester, Massachusetts. I don't know if you guys, I won't say the address because I don't want anybody, you probably have a lot of fans, crazy stalkers that may want to come after you.
There's too many.
The cool thing about Worcester is this is actually where my journey got started. So my very first rental property was found here in Worcester, Massachusetts in 2019 by Clark University. And that is what got me fully started and in love with what's now our careers. So it's kind of beautiful to be here. Every time I drive through it, I think about those early days.
So you started with a house hack near Clark University.
Yeah, so it was a 3-family, used an FHA loan, 3.5% down, lived in one of the units, rented out the others, quickly realized I didn't want to live in Worcester. I was missing the Boston nightlife a little too much. So I moved out and just rented out the whole building. I did that with a friend and early business partner, and that kind of got the ball rolling. So we got 2 properties that year in Worcester, one in April of 2019, another in June. Used FHA loans for both. And then we kind of sat on those going into 2020, and then COVID hit, and that was kind of an oh shit moment for us. We didn't know what was going to happen. Nobody knew what was going to happen, but there was a little uncertainty there. So we just wanted to make sure those properties were stabilized. By, I'd say, early 2020, we were pretty much stabilized. We went by the rent by the bedroom method, given how close the properties were to Clark University. So a lot of student demand for those. And toward the end of 2020 into 2021, my first business partner and I, we had a falling out. We had differing of opinions on the direction we wanted to take the business. And so that put me in a very interesting position. I realized my network was small. I hadn't known you yet. There's a lot of people that are now good friends and mentors / colleagues, business partners who I had not met yet. And it wasn't until I really started going to networking events in 2021 that I really started to expand my network and expand the opportunities that I was presenting myself with.
So let me get this straight, Ryan. You started in real estate, 2018?
2019.
2019. So you were in real estate for a good 2 years before you knew anybody else besides your partner in real estate.
Yeah, my network was very small for those first couple of years, and it's definitely not something I would advise. It wasn't something that I was intending to do, but I think we were just kind of shooting at the hip. So
let's just put this in perspective, right? In your first 2 years, you had how many units?
So in the first 2 years, we were at 6 units, and there was no growth. There was no growth, and I attribute a lot of that to not having kind of the resources and network around me to support growth.
And where are you? And how many units are you at today?
Probably 110, 115.
5 years after that 2-year period?
3 years after
3
that.
years.
3 or 4 years after that.
So you see quite the growth when you lean into actually networking and collaborating with other investors. All right, so you had that failed partnership. It wasn't really going well. Like, what did you do next? Like, what did you do to get you out of that funk?
So I had to pull my pants up and say, okay, am I gonna go up?
Maybe not right now.
No, maybe in this situation, pulling down. So kind of the journey for me was after my business partner and I went our separate ways at the beginning of 2021, I had to make a decision for myself. Did I want to go start trying to grow my portfolio alone? Did I want to try to meet new people, new business partners? Either way, I knew I wanted to grow my network. I felt like I didn't have the right support around me, and it was something that was kind of weighing heavy on me in those early years of investing anyway. So this was kind of the motivating event that allowed me or pushed me to start going to some of the networking events. Meetups started opening up in New Hampshire at this time and in Massachusetts. So I started going to some of the local events we had. I was able to meet people like you at some of these events, but I was also able to meet my now business partners at Blue Canyon Equity Partners, which is a real estate private equity company that we created a few years ago toward the end of 2021 or early 2022. But my now business partners, Matt Davis, John Marchese, we met at one of these real estate networking events, and we just realized that we had alignment in what our long-term goals were with real estate investing. So we decided to start a mastermind together. It was really a weekly accountability group where we went over our highs and lows and our goals. We analyzed a deal each week. We did a deal deep dive. That allowed us to see how we were all thinking about deals. And I was experimenting with direct mailers at this time, advertising directly to property owners to see if they wanted to sell their properties off market. Because I was doing that, I was starting to get leads. Those were leads that I was analyzing with the group. And we decided to pursue one of those leads together. And that was really the birth of Blue Canyon Equity Partners, kind of circa 2022.
So I think the important thing there is when you partnered with Matt and John, you didn't just partner with people you liked, right? You partnered with people that had complementary strengths against your weaknesses, right? Obviously you liked them, right? But you don't just partner with, the key to business is not just do business with your friends. It's do business with people that complement your strengths and negate your weaknesses.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of validity in what you just said there. And I would even go a little further into to say you should not just go into business with your friends, because those are friendships that may not make good business relationships or partnerships, and you can have falling out of friendships. And that's kind of what happened like with that first business partnership that I had. That was more of a friend where we had some alignment and we decided to jump into business together, but it didn't really work out. Whereas the next business partners, we went into that solely kind of with the mindset of let's go into this as business partners, and the friendship thing was more ancillary to that relationship.
That's one of the biggest mistakes I hear in business is people want to partner with their friends. Like that's not how you develop long-term sustainable partnerships. You partner with people that complement your skills, and friendship should be secondary to being good business partners.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So now that you mentioned, how you met them and you went into a mastermind, like tell me like how, like you were starting to expand your network. You would go on these meetups, right? And then you started to do these masterminds. How do these masterminds and these meetups attribute to your massive growth over the last 3-4 years?
Yeah. So the meetups fostered growing my business network and people who I could directly collaborate with in deals that I may not have known how to pursue with my own skills and resources at the time. So to give you an example, one of the earlier portfolios I had come across through some of my direct marketing efforts was a portfolio in New Bedford, Massachusetts. It was like a 65, 70 unit portfolio. And I wasn't even trying to target a portfolio that size. I happened to be mailing to a different town, a different city for a smaller property. The property owner had reached out to me and they said, hey, we're looking to sell a portfolio as part of winding down the estate. You mailed us about property X. We're not looking to sell that property, but we have properties A, B, C, D, E, F, G that we do want to sell. And so I said, okay, very interested, kind of putting forward a facade. I don't think I was certainly batting a little bit or punching a bit above my my weight class. But I said, you know what, let's just go for it. So I took a look at this portfolio. I pulled you into it actually at the time because you and I had just gotten into our own mastermind, a separate mastermind from the one that I was doing at Blue Canyon. And we seemed to be wanting to grow aggressively, and we had the energy and the enthusiasm to go after something like this. So it was kind of like a Blue Canyon Freedom Management joint effort, and we were able to tackle that within probably 2 months or so after looking at it, closed on that deal, and before you knew it, we had like close to, I think, 100 units each, together because of that transaction.
Yeah, I mean, you make it sound a lot easier than what it was. But yes, he brought the deal. We ended up partnering. We had to raise, $1.8 million on our first raise ever?
Yeah, 1.8. And it was, it was difficult. It really took everybody on the team, every general partner in that to get the last pennies together.
Yeah, it was a lot of money, right? And ultimately, I think we actually ended up having trouble doing the final capital raising. We had to bring in our mentor, right, John?
Yep. That is something that did happen. We were falling a little short, 100,000 short, so we brought in our mentor, who actually had a good kick-ass property management company that also helped us with the property management on that portfolio. But it's gone very, it was definitely a little bit of work getting that property stabilized. There was a good amount of units we had to turn and work that we had to do, CapEx, things we had to go after. But it was, I would say, instrumental to our growth as investors, and it really opened so many more doors and opportunities because we were able to tackle that.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, you and I are in private equity, right? And nobody would give us the credibility without tackling a huge deal like we did with that New Bedford deal. And ultimately, like, how much money you and I are going to make in that New Bedford deal? Probably not a lot of money, but you and I have made millions on the network capital from that deal.
Yeah, that was definitely more of a resume builder deal, but it was a good demonstration to the investors that we're constantly meeting and working with that we can take a property that has a strong value add play needed. We can create a business plan. We can implement on it, return capital to our investors, deliver on returns, and kind of complete the whole real estate investing cycle.
Yeah, and I think the common thread throughout this entire conversation is you have to have a deep network and you have to be associated with other people doing what you're going to do. Because ultimately, Ryan and I could not have taken down that deal if we didn't have a deep network to lean on when we ran into trouble. All right, so now that brings us into our next deal we did together, right at the exact same time. It was a 6-unit in Worcester, Massachusetts, 60 Providence Street. Tell us about that one.
Yeah, so this is another opportunity that was found off market, but not through myself. It was through a wholesaler in our network. I think they actually brought it to you.
They did.
And this was a very large building, had great square footage, great opportunity. We saw the rental income opportunity with this building. It was not well stabilized. It was definitely not performing. There was crappy tenants in there. The neighborhood used to have issues with gang violence. That had been cleaned up a little bit through kind of like the decades of police work in the town and the city. But the building still needed a lot of work. We actually had one lender that I think had Googled the address of the property and found that 10 years ago, the police had been called to the property over 100 times. It was actually a nuisance property. There was a whole article written in a local journal and newspaper about the property that we bought. We are 10 years later. The gang that was causing issues in the neighborhood was no longer around, but it was still giving us issues with lenders. So we needed to take that building one step further. And even though the tenant base was a lot better than the gangs that were in there or in the area, we wanted to now take it from kind of a more D-class, C-class feel to more of a B-class feel. And in a neighborhood that's improving. You know, it's right near Kelly Square, where there's hundreds of millions of dollars of investment going in over the last few years. So there's a great potential for this property, and it was in a good location that's kind of rising up. And as the saying goes, a rising tide lifts all boats. We wanted to be part of that kind of wave of gentrification, so to speak. So we went in there, we got the bad tenants out with the help of our property management company. We turned those units. We were able to take rents from, I don't even know what we were getting. We were getting $6,000, $8,000 for the entire building, up to like $13,000, closer to $14,000 now a month. And that's been great property. After 12 months, we were able to go back to the bank, do a cash out refinance, pull all of our initial capital out. It was a perfect example of a BRRRR: buy, rehab, rent, refinance, repeat.
So Ryan's really going to make everything sound so great, right?
So great, so easy. It's actually really easy. Everybody should invest in real estate because as easy as I'm making it sound is as easy as it actually is.
And I agree. That deal was fantastic. We made a lot of money in that deal. But what happened 2 weeks before we were closing?
Well, 2 weeks. He wants every detail. He wants me to tell you all the bad things that happen in real estate. So the cool thing about real estate is there's a lot of problems, little problems that scare the typical person away from investing at all. People talk about getting phone calls at 3 a.m. or just dealing with difficult tenants or, banks and credit pulls and things like that. Mm-hmm. I see these as little issues. They stop people from making changes to their life that could drastically improve their financial situation. Totally. So one of the things that happened with this deal, which rightfully could scare away another potential investor down the road, is the lender pulled out of the deal slightly 2 weeks before closing. They wanted to change the terms. So we originally got a term sheet that allowed us, the term sheet's really kind of like a pre-approval. It gives you the set terms of the loan that you are going to be getting with the bank. It's not by any means, though, a guarantee of what they'll provide. They're telling you on the front end, these are the terms that we are going to provide you if you can provide documentation that supports kind of the financial performance of the building. And we did provide things that supported documents that provided the financial healthiness of the building. But nevertheless, they decided that their risk appetite just changed 2 weeks before closing. And they went from a 75% loan to value loan on that down to like a 50% loan to value. So we would have had to come out of pocket with double the amount of cash we were originally planning to go into that. So that definitely threw a pickle into the entire business plan. What we had to decide, do we want to change lenders, try to ask for an extension, just go to a completely different bank? Do we want to go to a hard money lender, somebody who could close very quickly, provide a bit of a steeper leverage on that with higher loan to value, but at a higher interest rate for sure? Or do we want to try to proceed with this current lender and get the deal done but maybe negotiate a couple items to make it a little bit more palatable, but ultimately come to the deal with more cash. And we did end up going with that latter option, knowing that we would be in a very good situation probably within 6 to 12 months to get all of our money back out of that deal.
Yeah. I mean, to Ryan's point, the people that really make money in real estate are the problem solvers, right? It was a bigger problem than a broken toilet. Like, we had to come up with $250,000 in a week, right?
But we did have some leaky broken toilets that we also had to fix.
But at the end of the day, we ended up doing it because we know how to solve problems, and that resulted in us making probably $100,000 to $150,000 each on this deal.
And there's a couple other things going into that. We had assurance in confidence in our underwriting in that deal. If you don't have confidence in your underwriting, you need to have somebody in your network that you can lean on, especially when you're early on in your real estate investing career, who you can trust, who can kind of give you a second opinion when you're underwriting a deal. But we knew the potential of that building. So we said, you know what, we don't mind putting a little bit more cash into this because we could see how much we were going to return in the long run, really in the short run.
And there's always answers to any problem. Like, ultimately, Ryan and I, we didn't have the money. But we had the credibility, we had the name, and we took promissory notes, short-term promissory notes from friends and family to close the deal. And within 8 to 12 months, we paid them all back with the refinance proceeds.
Yep, and their promised interest stated return. So that was a win for everybody in that transaction.
Absolutely.
And it pushed us a little bit beyond what we're normally comfortable with, and maybe the way that we were thinking of approaching that deal to begin with. So that also provided a new tool within our tool belt or our toolbox for the next deal. And now we often use promissory notes as part of raising capital for our deals.
So those challenging moments actually make us stronger investors, right? So we're super thankful for running across those situations, because ultimately, if we run into a snag with another deal, we have way more tools in our tool belt to take to resolve that issue.
Yeah, so the more people that you have in your network and at your dispense, or people that you can lean in on whenever you come across issues that you haven't seen before. So ultimately, at the end of the day, when we have issues like, a big inspection that the city wants to do, and we're not quite sure the right route to take with dealing with them, if it's a notice that we must respond to, or if it's things, do we let them in the building, do we not? We've got more experienced investors that we can lean on and who have been in our shoes before and kind of guide us through those processes.
Ryan, so now that we heard about those deals, now tell me what you're doing today.
Yeah, so Blue Canyon, because of my direct marketing efforts, from the inception of Blue Canyon Equity Partners, what I was starting to realize was I was developing tools and methods for deal flow. And when I got deal flow, I have now options. I can decide to pursue a deal with the Blue Canyon team, or I can just decide to do nothing with it. But I realized that there was this middle ground road where I could decide to still take a property that might be a good candidate for another investor. And rather than do nothing with it, why don't I get it under contract and find another investor in the marketplace that wants to buy that property off of me for a small fee. Small is relative,
sure.
But it's ultimately a way that we could provide ourselves with additional revenue streams to kind of feed our kind of marketing machine and go after the deals that we do want to go after, the ones that are really juicy, that our investors like to join us on, and at the same time help provide ourselves with financial security, because we need money to live off of. We make money from the deals that we're doing, some of the deals that we're flipping, or the deals that we're doing cash out refinances on, or just selling, deals that we're doing where there's acquisition fees. But there's also these deals, these wholesale deals where we're getting wholesale revenue, or like a finder's fee.
Sure.
And so this has been kind of huge. It's been monumental. It's really allowed me to fully lean into real estate investing full time. It's allowed me to start pulling in friends and family who want to get into the real estate game. I've brought my sister into the wholesaling side of the business. She's starting to look for paths forward where she can fully do real estate investing full time. So it's just like another kind of, it's kind of like orb, not even like that. It's just another revenue stream in the real estate investing world. Because you'll realize as you start getting into real estate investing and you start reading that there's so many ways that you can make money in real estate, in so many asset classes. And at times it can feel overwhelming and daunting. Like there's so much opportunity. It's really important when you're first starting out to kind of pick one or two that you're interested in and kind of just stick to it for 6 months to a year and really just dive into it and make some progress with it. But as you start to get more experience and you meet more people, you realize you can kind of yield out a little bit and grab onto some other kind of opportunities and revenue streams. And wholesaling has been one that's worked out well for us.
So I think there's a common thread here. It's that, you're successful when you lead into what you're good at. And you're really good at really good at acquisitions and finding off-market properties and direct-to-seller marketing, right? You're really leading into that on the Blue Canyon front, but you're also leaning that into that on, a revenue front in regards to, replacing your W-2, right? So you're really sitting in your genius. And that's really, I think, what's setting you apart from other investors and really allowing you to exponentially grow. And not only that, but you're also leaning into in the fact that you could bring value to other groups by bringing them acquisitions, right?
Yeah. And to me, it's like a way that there's a piece of the pie that we can all kind of share in and enjoy. It's a deal that sometimes I'm finding the deal, we're closing on it. Sometimes I'm finding the deal and bringing it to maybe your group and we're collaborating on it together. Sometimes I'm finding the deal just giving it to somebody else. Sometimes I'm finding a deal that I know a real estate agent has a client that is interested in the deal and I can't really do anything with it. It's not good for me to wholesale. I'll still pass it off to them and I can still get a kind of small finder's fee at the end of the day. So if I know that I'm not super worried about can I make money on every transaction. Yep. It's more like, can I provide value to the people in my network that I care about? I know the value will come back to me in some way, whether that's monetarily or through future opportunity.
Exactly. All good points. Now, we're at the conclusion of the show, right? We want to leave some people with some golden nuggets, right? Some golden nuggets, similar to those nuggets right near those shorty shorts that Ryan's wearing right over there, right? So Ryan, we get wholesaling, we get how you make money, right? But why don't you give us the nitty gritty on how our viewers can do wholesaling today?
All right, so wholesaling is one of those beautiful entry points into real estate where you do not need a lot of resources or money to get into it. Really, you don't need any. What you really need is time and a little bit of knowledge. So the reason I say that is because with your time, even just driving to work, you can start making notice of properties that look dilapidated and distressed, properties that are ugly. They're eyesores of the neighborhood. These are going to be perfect candidates for a real estate investor. So if you can make contact with those property owners, maybe you write a note and you leave it in their mailbox. Maybe you look up public contact information, public records for the owners of those properties and you reach out to them. Those are ways. You don't need to know how much you'd have to buy the property for quite yet. You don't need to know how to underwrite a property, how to underwrite a flip. You just need to reach out to them and see if they're interested in selling. You can tell them that you work with real estate investors, that you can buy the property cash. These are all things that would be true at the end of the day. And once you realize that they're motivated, that they want to sell, you've got their contact information. Now you can go reach out to investors in your network and you can say, hey, I've got this opportunity. Help me underwrite this. Help me figure out how much I need to go to them and tell them we're willing to offer. For finding the deal for you, will you give me a referral fee or a finder's fee? And this is a way that you can start making easily 5 figures. I know wholesalers who are starting out that are making $10,000, $15,000 plus just for bringing a deal to another real estate investor, because that real estate investor is now going to have a deal where they're going to make $50,000, $100,000, maybe even more. So it's well worth it to them. And it's very difficult. Not every real estate investor wants to do their own marketing. Not every real estate investor needs deal flow. And so wholesalers are a very integral, important part of the deal flow process.
Yeah. And not only that, it really allows you an entry point to really learn from an expert, right? Because if a wholesaler brings me a really solid deal, right? Like I'm obviously gonna, take them under my wing and show them that deal from start to finish, right? And I may give them upside. They may literally get upside in the deal simply for bringing me the deal, right? So, I think wholesaling is a really good introductory way because like you said, finding deals is one of the most valuable things in real estate.
Yeah, I love what you just said there, because when you are bringing value to somebody else, they're going to want to spend a little bit of time developing you. You're creating value for them. They want to maintain that relationship. You're naturally going to learn about the things that they're doing. So if you're interested yourself in real estate investing, if you're interested yourself in flipping, and you're helping flippers find properties, you're going to learn how they're thinking about those deals. You're going to learn how much they're putting into those deals to fix them up. You're going to learn how much they're selling those deals for and how much they're profiting. So you're really going to learn about the entire deal cycle. You'll have a resource, somebody in your network right there at your dispense. If you wanted to start doing your own flips, now you've got somebody that you can lean in on or even partner with on a deal.
Yeah, I mean, everybody's taken a psychology course and knows the concept of reciprocity, where if I do something nice for you, you feel a need to do something nice for me. And that's simply human nature, right? If you provide endless value to people and you are extremely nice, like that person be an absolute dick to not want to help you. It's just human nature. People don't do that, right? So like the idea of just leading with value and understanding that reciprocity will feed you back one way or another. Maybe that person's not going to give you value, but the universe will find value one way or another is really the key to being successful, especially in real estate, in my opinion.
That's right. The universe will reward those who give and do great things. It's something about the energy out there, whatever you want to call it. Karma, universal.
I'm a vibe guy.
A vibe guy?
I'm a vibe guy.
It's the vibes.
All right. Enough of that now. Let's get the main takeaways and getting our audience some serious golden nuggets. All right, Ryan. So in today's market with all the uncertainty, what are really good tips that you utilize to get good deals today?
All right, so one of the things, if I know I'm going to be facing competition when I'm out there making offers, I will try to build in an escalation clause within my offers. An escalation clause is telling the seller of a property that you're willing to beat any competing offer by a certain amount of money. I usually provide wording in there that I want to provide. It needs to be a bona fide offer that they can substantiate. In other words, I want them to show me the offer if they're going to say that they've got a higher offer. But ultimately, my offer is saying I will pay X amount of dollars more than a substantiated competing offer. And this allows me to not have to put my best offer forward, but to start off at a number that I hope to get the property at, but I can inch my way up a little higher if I need to.
Good tip.
Escalation clause.
Escalation clause. Great tip. Another good tip in today's market, especially with the market really turning to more of a buyer's market and less so a seller's market, is incorporating, hybrid seller finance products, right? So asking the seller, maybe give me a 10%, 20% seller finance loan. Let's get that outside the transaction. Let me utilize that for the down payment. So I only have to bring 10 to 15% down, right? That's a really good strategy in today's market where, sellers don't have that many buyers and they're willing to take creative strategy like that when previously they were unwilling to do that.
Yeah, especially if you have a stubborn seller who is really, really adamant about getting a certain price, then you have a little bit more wiggle room to negotiate because you can give them their price, but maybe in exchange you're getting some better terms that make the deal sweeter for you.
Absolutely. All right. Now let's get to the real nitty gritty. What people really want to know. All right. And Ryan, so tell people, please tell us, how do you keep that luscious head of hair so freaking beautiful?
It's coming into the saunas. Like this sauna podcast rooms are the new way of just sweating out and keeping the hair healthy. No, I mean, it's genetics, to be honest. It's just genetics. So you're gonna have to talk to my parents. Maybe you can somehow work out some genetic exchange with them and they can help you out.
Sure. Well, thank God for CRISPR. We can edit that shit.
That's right.
All right. Now, the last and final question. How are you able to travel the world while still doing real estate? Because I see your Instagram reels every single day. I see you in some international place. So tell us, how are you able to live the life that people want to live?
So a big core component of my life right now is enjoying my kind of like single life, but I don't have a family to look after. As I've grown my real estate portfolio and as I've grown the real estate investing business, I'm trying to lean in on a team as much as I can at every part of the process, every stage of the process. So when it comes to acquisitions, I know I've got people on my team that I can lean in on to go look at a property or to help me underwrite a property or to help me make an offer on a property if I can't do those things, if I'm busy. When it comes to managing a property, I outsource my property management. I don't really do any of my own property management. And to the extent that I do my own property management, if I'm going to travel or go away, I make sure that I have the team in place to help me out with any issues that happen. But I make a point to enjoy my life. I left the 9-to-5 corporate world. It was actually never 9 to 5 to me. It was always longer hours than that. But I left that world because I wanted to take control over my life, have financial freedom to do things that I wanted to do. And one of those things is enjoying my life and traveling the world. And so I would be doing myself a disservice if at this point in life, now that I've started to build up my portfolio and I have this disposable income, that I'm not enjoying this time. And we can't take this time for granted. It's depressing to think about this, but I can't guarantee that I'm going to be here in 2 years. Some freak accident, maybe it's going to happen when I'm traveling. I don't know, but some freak accident may happen. So, I want to make as many memories as I can and travel with the people that I love, my friends, my family, sometimes colleagues, if you play your cards right. And, and I want to make,
well, he's wearing those shorts, baby.
Yes. If you wear shorter shorts, you can come on the next trip with me.
Perfect. Love it. You heard that here, folks. That's how you really scale in real estate, is working with good partners, sitting in your strengths, and having a deep network. That's how Ryan did it, and that's how you can do it too. All right, Ryan, before let's end this podcast, please tell people where can they find you.
Yeah, so to follow all the incredible things that my team at Blue Canyon Equity Partners are up to, you can follow us on Instagram at Blue Canyon EP, like Equity Partners. You can also go to our website, sign up for our newsletter, bluecanyonep.com. And if you want to follow me on my personal social, at Ryan R. Emrich, and you can follow all the cool things that I'm up to, oftentimes posting about real estate, but also posting espresso martinis that I'm having on occasion.
Perfect. You hear that? You hear that here, folks. Follow Ryan And don't forget to follow the Freedom Real Estate Podcast, Investor Freed, and Artem Sopot. Thanks for stopping by. We will catch you later. You're like sweating profusely.
I know, it's so warm. It's a sauna in there.
Yeah, you are. I'm just sorry. Dude, we get you a
I don't mind. I'll roll with it. Sweat wipe. And then...
Do you need like a water or something? Do we
I
need
got a
to
water.
get
Do you have a little paper towel though or something? Or just dab.
Yeah.
Sweet baby Jesus, this kid's like dying on us.
I'm not sweating at all.
I'm used to
I'm good.
No, I run warm and I sweat.
God.
I sweat like from doing very little activity.
fat for-
Deep networks and air conditioning and fans always help too.
Yes. We unfortunately
Keeps
missing
things,
some
keeps
of the
things
today.
cool. Keeps things cool.
He is sweating profusely.
I know, I am.
He is literally sweating profusely if you haven't noticed.
Ridiculous when you guys edit, we might have to just
Yeah, no.
Actually not.
No,
It
look
doesn't,
pretty
it
good.
doesn't look that nice.